The focus principally in this phase, level 4, that will commence on the 1st of May, it's International Labour Day, is about restarting core parts of the economy. We're considering a more measured reopening of more retail in order to continue the limit on movement in the society. As has been said, the virus doesn't move. People move. When many people move, the virus moves rapidly and spreads very quickly. In moving from level 5, which is the highest level of the lockdown, this is where we are now, to level 4, we need to strike a careful balance. If we move too fast, we risk a rapid rise in infection, and we will find ourselves with many ill people, many more deaths, and we have to return immediately to level 5, which is detrimental to the economy itself in the long term, in addition to the fact that we would lose people whose lives otherwise could be saved. If we move too slow, we prolong the economic downturn, and we risk that parts of the economy will not be able to continue. We know that, we recognize that. It's real. So we must move forward, but we must do so with a degree of caution, or as the President has put it, in a risk-adjusted manner. The proposal that we will be putting to sectors today follows discussion that we had with businesses, with firms, with organizations of individual firms, but also with the trade union movement. We've listened to comments by many citizens, by comments that we've seen on social media, and we've taken that into account. The current essential service activities that operate under level 5 is already extensive. They cover many sectors already. All of energy and water, sanitation, and telecommunication infrastructure is currently at work. So too is the health sector, food production, healthcare products, and hygiene products, as well as critical public sectors. Most of financial sectors are currently at work. Parts of retail, of mining, of manufacturing, of construction, of communications, parts of the media, some call centers, and parts of the public sector are at work. They will continue to operate when we shift to level 4, but we will be adding additional economic activities to that list. With a change in the lockdown from level 5 to level 4, as we move to that level, we estimate that it will enable more than 1.5 million South Africans to leave their home and go back into the workplace. That's roughly the additional number that we expect. The exact number, of course, will depend on many factors, on how many firms reopen, on the final arrangements involving sectors like education and so on. And it will be based on a framework that we're still developing for different sectors. Now, if we look at the economy as a whole, if we add these roughly 1.5 million persons to those who are already working at the moment, it means more than 4 out of 10 workers in the economy will, in phased ways, be back at work. That's just over 40%, depending on the final list of sectors and activities and the final schedules for education. We will, of course, release a firmer estimate once the final list of reopened sectors has been completed, following the processes that Minister Dlamini Zuma has outlined. I want to turn to the new activities that is proposed for reopening. In agriculture, forestry and fishing, that whole sector will begin to reopen, because that now will include logging and forestry, as well as horticulture, the transport of livestock and animal auctions, of course under clear social distancing directions that will be issued. In manufacturing, there will be a further partial opening of the sectors. The sectors will not be open 100% during level 4 because we need to give firms an opportunity for a phased return to work. We need to begin to test the systems at factory gates, at work areas, in the canteens, in bathrooms, in the screening of workers, in transport, in arrangements for those who have the symptoms of COVID-19. And of course, also to progressively increase the number of people who are on the road moving to work and moving from work. As a broad baseline, 20% of all manufacturing workers will begin to restart during level 4, but some subsectors of manufacturing will have a higher number of workers, a higher proportion of workers who will be able to return progressively to work. Still not to 100%, but to more than 20%. They include the following sectors: children's clothing and winter clothing. We know how important it is for families to be able to get warm clothing. Part of fighting the virus is to avoid the cold. Blanket manufacturing for a very similar reason, and other bedding and computers and mobile phones so that we can enable more people to work from home. Some car manufacturing and the components that goes into cars. Some manufacturing of cement and other construction material, as well as hardware, because as construction starts, they will need the stocks of these basic raw materials that are required. And of course, stationary production, because we've got to begin to get ready for the return of workers to factories where they'll need stationery, and down the line also the arrangements involving higher education and schooling in general. So that covers manufacturing. If we look at the shops, and they are the retail stores, the wholesale stores, some additional opening of retail will take place in level 4. We recognize that shops are a big vector of transmission. When you go to the shop, there are greater opportunities, because you mix with so many people, for the virus to spread. So we really want to appeal that visits to the shops be as infrequent as possible, only go when it's really necessary, and keep it as short as possible, and we have to maintain social distance and adequate sanitation arrangement in the various shops. When I'm talking of retail, I'm of course not only talking of the large supermarkets. We also mean here the reference to informal trading and to spaza shops. The categories of retail sales that will be expanded include children's clothing, winter goods like winter clothes, blankets and heaters, stationery and educational books, tobacco products, and personal ICT equipment. Those are things like computers and mobile phones and other home office equipment. I move next to mining. Mining has already begun the process of workers returning to work. They do so in batches because of the large numbers involved. Not all workers in mining can go back at the same time. And my colleague, Minister Mantashe, has already outlined how that process will work. In level 4, the new addition is that those workers who work in open cast mining, in other words, not underground, they will be able to go back in larger numbers, again in phases, but returning in the period from the current 50%, eventually in phases to 100%. Services will also increase. From some professional services that will be required by firms that now open, so if a car factory opens in part, they may need people who do professional services, engineering services, accounting services, legal services, and so on. So those services will follow the opening of the economy in level 4. But it also includes other key services. And I can draw attention to call centers will now have an expanded number of activities that take place. Recycling sectors will also reopen, including informal recyclers. Construction will have expanded activities. Previously, it was really critical maintenance and construction works. It will now be expanded to include civil engineering for public work projects, and these include water, energy, and sanitation projects. And we also will be bringing road and bridge projects in during level 4, so that in rural areas we can begin to attend to the importance of building new roads, maintaining roads. As regards restaurants and other places serving food, restaurants and takeaways as well as other similar places will be open for delivery only. And that delivery means that the customer don't come to the shop or the takeaways, but the food goes to the customer. Because the experience all over the world has been that that is a better way of limiting the movement of people. So you won't be able to visit a restaurant to sit down or to fetch your food, but you can phone, you can make some other arrangement, do online, and ensure that you are able to tap into the food that's available. It's an opportunity to create a food delivery network in townships as well. Now, we've pulled out a few key areas. We will share a detailed document with all the proposed sectors and what changes between level 5 and level 4 with the sectors concerned.